Okay, let's unpack this. When you think of a light bulb, maybe,
Yeah.
or even like an old-timey record player, one name probably springs right to mind. Thomas Edison.
Mm-hmm. Almost instantly.
But, as we're about to discover in this deep dive, his influence, it stretches way beyond those iconic inventions.
Oh, absolutely. Far beyond.
He didn't just invent things. He fundamentally invented, well, how we invent things. He kind of ushered in this whole era of systematic innovation.
That's a great way to put it. It profoundly reshaped the modern world.
Yeah, his impact is just so pervasive, it's woven right into the fabric of our daily lives. So much so that it's almost invisible, We take it completely for granted.
And what's truly fascinating here, I think, is that Edison's incredibly productive life he lived from 1847 to 1931, it unfolded right during this pivotal historical period. We're talking the very heart of the Second Industrial Revolution.
Right, a time of huge change.
Exactly, an era of just unprecedented technological and industrial transformation. It deeply integrated new inventions into society in ways that, honestly, are hard for us to fully grasp today. His personal journey, from this curious kid to a titan of industry, it directly intertwined with America's really rapid industrialization,
Yeah.
especially in the Northeast, which was bustling, right? That's where he set up his groundbreaking
That
laboratories.
makes sense.
So our deep dive today, it's really dedicated to exploring his incredible creativity, the sheer volume, and the variety of his inventions, and maybe most crucially, the systematic methodology he pioneered.
That system again.
Yeah, that approach, more than any single invention. That's his enduring legacy. It's a blueprint that still impacts, every major research and development center across the globe. We'll really try to uncover how he, in so many ways, became the chief architect of modern industry and technology.
And we've meticulously gathered quite a stack of sources here. They peel back the many layers on Edison's prolific career. We've got biographical articles, academic research, detailed analyses of his patents, plus our own extensive notes.
Mm-hmm. A lot to dig into.
So our mission, as always, is to extract the most important nuggets of knowledge, maybe some surprising insights, too, for you, our curious learner. Consider this your shortcut to being exceptionally well-informed about a true titan of innovation.
Get ready for some aha moments, hopefully.
Definitely. Prepare yourself, because we're about to dive deep into the mind, the methods, and, frankly, the sheer relentless drive of Thomas Alva Edison. So where did this extraordinary journey actually begin? For the man who had revolutionized so much of our daily lives.
Right, the origin story.
Thomas Alva Edison, born February 11, 1847 in Milan, Ohio. And here's where his story, it really diverges from the typical narrative of genius, doesn't it?
It really does.
He wasn't exactly a star student, not in the traditional sense anyway, at least not according to his formal schooling.
Yeah, that's a key point.
In fact, his learning process was overwhelmingly self-directed, a real testament to his independent spirit, even from a very young age. And this unique approach, it seems like it profoundly shaped his entire philosophy toward innovation later on.
That really does beg an interesting question, though. How does someone become such a profound innovator? Credited with over 1,000 patents, without that conventional education path that many people associate with scientific and technological advancement?
Good question. How did he do it?
Well, our sources really highlight that his mother, Nancy Elliott Edison, she had actually been a school teacher herself.
Ah, okay.
She played an absolutely instrumental role. She actually pulled him out of formal school after just a few months.
Really? Why?
She recognized his, let's say, unique temperament and his just insatiable curiosity. They weren't well suited to the rigid rote memorization methods common back then.
Makes sense. He sounds like he needed space to explore.
Exactly. So instead, she provided him with this really robust home education. She fostered an environment where his natural curiosity about the world, especially mechanical things, electrical objects, it could truly flourish, without the constraints of a formal curriculum.
So it was hands-on learning from the start.
Very much so. This hands-on, self-directed approach, it wasn't just about reading books. It was about doing, about experimenting. It laid the critical groundwork for his rapid and intense interest in those nascent electrical and telegraph technologies.
Right, which were cutting edge then.
Totally. It allowed him to explore, to tinker, to really deeply understand the mechanics of things from the ground up rather than just absorbing theory. This formative period was undeniably critical. It shaped his unique, practical problem-solving methodology that defined his entire career.
And his practical education wasn't just, confined to his home lab or his mother's lessons.
Yeah.
By the remarkably young age of 12.
Young Edison started working.
Incredible, isn't it? He became a news butcher on the Grand Trunk Railway, selling newspapers, candy, snacks. But he quickly expanded that. Get this. He set up a printing press in the baggage car to publish his own newspaper.
On the train.
On the train, the Grand Trunk Herald. And he even conducted chemical experiments right there on the moving train. Apparently caused a small fire once.
Wow, that's dedication. Or maybe recklessness.
A bit of both, maybe. But it was during this period he encountered the telegraph, and that technology just utterly captivated him. Soon after, he became a telegraph operator. And this wasn't just a job, right? In many ways, it was his real practical university.
Immersive learning.
Totally immersed him in the nuts and bolts of communication tech in real time. He wasn't just sending messages, he was dissecting the machines, understanding their intricate mechanisms, seeing their limitations firsthand, figuring out how they could be improved.
Learning by doing, constantly.
Yeah, this hands-on experience, often working like 16-hour shifts. It proved invaluable. It gave him this real-world laboratory to apply and sharpen his burgeoning technical skills.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, his time as a telegraph operator, it was really far more than just acquiring technical skills, though he certainly gained a huge amount of those.
Right. It was foundational.
Absolutely. The source material points out his extraordinary aptitude for, well, self-repair, and even improvement of the telegraph devices he was using. You hear stories of him fixing instruments that other operators thought were, completely irreparable.
Wow.
And even inventing small modifications to enhance their efficiency. Like, there's the story of a device that allowed him to automatically signal 6 at regular intervals.
Why 6?
Well, it was apparently a signal required by the operators to show they were awake and attentive. His device let him catch short naps.
Huh. That's ingenious.
Yeah.
A very practical invention.
Exactly. It demonstrated his exceptional practical intelligence and manual dexterity at very, very early age. It just wasn't enough for him to simply use the technology. He had this immediate, almost instinctive inclination, not just to understand it, but to master it, and crucially, to enhance it.
Always improving.
Always. This relentless drive to improve existing systems, to solve practical problems, that became an absolute hallmark of his entire career. It fundamentally differentiated him from many other inventors of his time who might have focused more on, say, pure theoretical advancements.
Right. He was about making things work better, practically.
Precisely. This direct hands-on learning, where he was constantly tinkering and refining, was absolutely foundational to his entire inventive process.
Which brings us to maybe Edison's most distinctive trait, the thing that really set him apart. It wasn't just what he invented, was it?
No, I don't think so.
It was how he invented. He champions this groundbreaking philosophy. He saw invention not as a sudden flash of individual inspiration, that isolated aha moment of genius striking some lone inventor in a dusty workshop.
The romantic image, yeah.
Right. Instead, he saw it as a meticulously planned, intensely experimental, and incredibly systematic process.
He believed in tireless, methodical effort, rigorous testing, a relentless, iterative approach to problem solving.
It seems like such a stark contrast to that romanticized lone genius narrative, often associated with inventors of his era.
It really was, and it marked a revolutionary shift in the very concept of innovation itself.
So how did he put that philosophy into practice?
Well, what's truly fascinating here, and a point that really cannot be overstated, is the significance of the Menlo Park Laboratory. Edison established it in 1876 in this small community in New Jersey, and this was no ordinary workshop.
Okay, tell us about Menlo Park.
It represented a radical departure from the typical invention approach of the era. Before Menlo Park, invention was largely, a solitary pursuit, or maybe a small, informal apprenticeship.
Just one person, maybe a helper.
Exactly. Edison, however, envisioned and then actually built what was, in essence, the world's first true industrial research and development laboratory.
The first R&D lab.
Wow. Yeah. It wasn't just Edison tinkering alone. It became this dynamic innovation hub. He brought together numerous highly skilled individuals, engineers, machinists, chemists, draftsmen, scientists. They collaborated systematically. They worked together, often in shifts around the clock, focused on specific, defined projects.
Like an invention factory.
That's a perfect description. This systematic, collaborative, and interdisciplinary approach, integrating engineering, scientific inquiry, and a really keen business sense right from the outset.
Yeah.
That is, in essence, the very blueprint for modern R&D centers globally.
So he invented the invention process itself, in a way.
He truly invented the concept of organized industrial innovation, setting up this factory of invention where ideas could be systematically pursued, tested, and brought to fruition.
So what is this profoundly organized approach to invention? What does it mean for the modern world, for us today?
Well, Edison's entrepreneurial vision, it seamlessly blended that innovation with industrial production. He wasn't just interested in inventing something novel just for novelty's sake. He was intensely focused on making it practical, scalable for mass production, and commercially viable.
So it had to make money, basically.
Essentially, yes, or at least have the potential to. This was a critical and transformative shift. He understood that an invention's true impact came from its widespread adoption, moving ideas out of the realm of curiosities and into the everyday lives of millions. His whole philosophy was rooted in utility and profitability.
So how did he manage that commercial side?
Precisely. The sources reveal this really meticulous process. Every product developed in his laboratory was first rigorously tested for its practical application.
Okay, step one. Does it work reliably?
Right. Then it was patented to secure the intellectual property rights. Very important.
Got to protect the idea.
Absolutely. And only then were robust production and distribution channels established for its widespread commercialization. This systematic use and, frankly, aggressive management of patent rights were absolutely crucial for securing his financial gains and protecting his intellectual property.
So patents were central to his strategy.
Critical. It highlights this deep understanding that invention needed to be economically viable and defensible to truly impact society broadly. And yes, generate wealth. This entire approach, it essentially established a foundational blueprint for tech companies today.
You can really see the parallels.
Definitely. The cycle of systematic research, invention, patenting, industrial scale production, and market distribution, that's standard operating procedure now. He didn't just invent groundbreaking products, he invented and perfected the business model for inventing itself, a model still replicated in countless corporations worldwide.
Okay, let's talk specifics. When we talk Thomas Edison, the first invention that springs to mind for, I'd say, most people.
The light bulb.
The light bulb, undoubtedly. It's iconic, synonymous with his name, maybe his most lasting symbol. But here's where it gets really interesting and maybe often misunderstood.
Okay.
His bulb wasn't just conceived as a standalone lamp, was it?
No, not at all. From its very inception, it was conceived as an integral part of an entire commercially viable electric lighting system.
All system.
Yes. He wasn't just thinking of lighting a single room, he was thinking about lighting entire cities, revolutionizing how societies functioned after dark.
That's a much bigger vision.
It really is. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, Edison's relentless work on that practical, long-lasting carbon filament incandescent bulb, the one he got a patent for in 1879, it was an extraordinary testament to perseverance.
It wasn't easy then.
Far from it. Before Edison, many inventors had demonstrated electric light, sure, but they struggled with creating filaments that were both durable enough for practical use and economically viable for mass adoption.
Right, they burned out too quickly or cost too much.
Exactly. And they also grappled with maintaining a proper vacuum environment inside the bulb, which was needed to prevent the filament from burning up instantly. Edison's success wasn't some sudden, singular breakthrough. It was the culmination of literally thousands upon thousands of experiments and failures.
Thousands.
Oh, yes. The historical accounts detail his team's incredibly patient and iterative process of trial and error, testing countless materials. Everything from various plant fibers like cotton and flax, different metals, and famously, carbonized bamboo from Japan.
Bamboo.
Yes,
Yeah.
that proved to be the most successful early filament. He tirelessly experimented with different bulb designs and, crucially, he developed improved vacuum pump technologies. Creating a near-perfect vacuum inside the bulb was essential for a long-lasting filament.
So the pump was as important as the filament.
In many ways, yes. This relentless dedication to solving a complex problem through persistent systematic experimentation, that's arguably the defining characteristic of his inventive genius.
But as you said, he didn't stop at just making the bulb commercially viable and long-lasting.
Correct. That was just one piece of his grand vision.
He understood that a fantastic light bulb is pretty useless without the infrastructure to actually power it.
Exactly. No power, no light.
So he simultaneously embarked on this, well, monumental task of building the direct current, or DC-based, electricity distribution system, all network to widely transmit electricity to homes, businesses, factories.
It was about creating an entirely new infrastructure that would make widespread electric light possible and accessible.
Transforming it from like a laboratory curiosity into an everyday utility.
Precisely. Which raises a critical question. How did he make electricity accessible to the masses, beyond just demonstrating a working bulb in the lab?
How did he scale it up?
Well, in 1882, just 3 years after patenting his bulb, Edison opened the Pearl Street Electric Generating Station, right in Lower Manhattan, New York City.
Pearl Street.
This was a truly monumental achievement. It marked the first large-scale central power plant and distribution system for electric power in the world.
The first one.
The first commercial one, yes. This facility didn't just generate power, it laid the direct foundation for modern electric grids. It enabled entire city blocks to be lit at night, and for electric devices to be used consistently and reliably.
So that's where the modern grid really started.
You could definitely argue that. Initially, Edison's DC system, it offered advantages. It was seen as safer, maybe more efficient over short distances, particularly good for dense urban environments.
What, there's a catch, right?
There was a significant limitation. DC suffered from substantial power losses over longer transmission lines. It just wasn't efficient for widespread regional power distribution.
Okay, so good for a city block, bad for connecting cities.
Pretty much. And this inherent limitation, it ultimately ignited what became famously known as the War of the Currents.
Ah, yes. Edison versus Tesla.
And Westinghouse. It was this fierce, high-stakes competition with alternative current, or AC, systems. AC was championed by brilliant minds like Nikola Tesla and industrial giants like George Westinghouse. Their system, using transformers to step voltage up and down, proved far more efficient for transmitting electricity over vast distances.
So AC won in the end for long distance.
Largely, yes, for transmission. It's a fascinating and sometimes pretty dramatic example of technological competition driving progress. You had these two fundamentally different approaches to power transmission, battling for dominance. Each had its own merits, its own limitations, and the outcome had profound implications for the future of electrification.
Okay, so moving from light, illuminating the world, to
Yeah.
capturing its echoes and sounds. In 1877, Edison unleashed another marvel, something that fundamentally changed how we experience recorded sound: the phonograph.
Another game changer.
This wasn't just some gadget. It was humanity's first truly successful device for recording and playing back sound.
A concept that must have seemed almost magical, right? Impossible even back then.
Totally. It captured these fleeting auditory experiences, voices, music, laughter, and made them permanent, repeatable, transportable.
And what's truly ingenious about the phonograph, something our sources really delved into, is its, well, deceptively simple mechanical ingenuity.
How did it actually work?
It worked by recording physical impressions of sound waves, converting vibrations to grooves. Initially, it was onto a cylindrical surface wrapped in tinfoil.
Tinfoil. Wow.
Yeah, later improved to more durable wax cylinders. A stylus would then trace these grooves, reproducing the sound mechanically.
Amazing.
This invention didn't just revolutionize the nascent entertainment sector. It quite literally pioneered the formation of the music industry itself. It created an entirely new way for artists to distribute their work and for audiences to consume it, in their own homes whenever they wished.
Before the phonograph, music and spoken word were just ephemeral, gone once performed.
Exactly. This invention changed everything. But its significance, it actually extended far beyond just entertainment.
Oh, like what?
Well, it opened doors for entirely new applications in really diverse fields. Language learning, for instance. Repetitive listening became possible. Archiving, preserving voices of historical figures or family members. Communication, though, that path evolved a bit differently. And even early forms of forensic science in sound analysis.
Wow. I hadn't thought of those uses.
And Edison, with his characteristic drive for perfection, he continuously refined the phonograph. improving cylinder materials for better sound quality, better durability, enhancing the mechanism's precision, designing more robust playback systems.
Always iterating.
Always. This invention was the direct ancestor of all modern audio technology. From vinyl records and cassette tapes right through to digital streaming and the voice assistants you use today.
That's quite a lineage. Okay, so we have light, we have sound. What about moving pictures?
Right. As the 19th century drew to a close, moving image technologies were advancing rapidly, spurred by the work of many inventors, actually, across the globe. Edison, with his keen eye for commercial potential, quickly recognized the power of visual storytelling.
He saw the next big thing.
He definitely did. He threw his considerable resources behind its development. He understood that combining sight with sound, capturing motion, that would be the next frontier in entertainment and communication.
So this raises a fascinating question. How did we get from still photographs to moving pictures? And what was Edison's specific foundational role in that leap?
Well, in 1891, Edison introduced the kinetoscope, which was a truly significant step forward.
The kinetoscope. Okay, what was that?
This was the first device that allowed a single viewer, just one person at a time, to watch short sequences of moving images through a small peephole on the top.
So like a personal movie machine.
Kind of, yeah. Think of it like a personal, often coin-operated mini theater. While it wasn't projection for a crowd, it was absolutely fundamental to both the recording and the displaying of moving images.
And how did they record the images?
Crucially, he and his chief assistant, a brilliant guy named William Kennedy Laurie Dixon, they also developed the kinetograph camera system. This was a revolutionary camera. It was capable of shooting sequential frames rapidly onto celluloid film, creating that illusion of motion when played back.
So the camera and the viewer were linked.
Yes. These innovations, particularly the standardized film format, they used 35mm wide with those characteristic sprocket holes to move the film.
The same format used for decades in cinema.
Exactly. That laid the essential groundwork for short-form visual storytelling and the very establishment of the cinema industry as we know it. Furthermore, Edison's numerous patents in this domain, covering both the recording and viewing devices, they significantly influenced the legal and commercial development of cinema machines and projection technologies later on. It gave him considerable control over the nascent film industry in its early formative years.
It's truly remarkable how he foresaw the potential there, not just as a science project, but as a brand new medium for art, entertainment, mass communication.
Absolutely. He had that commercial vision right alongside the technical innovation.
So when you look at the sheer breadth and depth of his work across so many diverse fields, telegraphy, electric power, sound recording, moving pictures, it's just staggering.
It really is.
He accumulated over 1,100 patents in his lifetime. I mean, that number alone speaks volumes, doesn't it?
It certainly does. About his incredibly versatile and productive nature.
These patents covered everything from the seemingly simple, like an electric pen,
Right.
to these incredibly complex systems that powered entire cities. It's just a testament to a mind constantly in motion, always seeking to innovate, improve, commercialize.
And if we connect that to the bigger picture again, it becomes clear that actually maybe more important than the sheer number of patents
Okay.
was Edison's uncanny ability to take inventions, which often started as scientific curiosities or maybe theoretical concepts, and make them intensely practical. He focused relentlessly on aligning them with real societal needs, industrial needs, rather than just pursuing scientific theory for its own sake.
He grounded them in reality.
Exactly. He had this incredible knack for seeing the practical application, the commercial potential, and the path to mass production. He seamlessly integrated complex technology into daily life, leaving this indelible mark on everything from widespread electric lighting, which transformed urban landscapes, to the very foundations of cinema and sound recording, which reshaped leisure and culture.
His impact wasn't just about creating new things.
No, it was about making them useful, accessible, and integrated into the fabric of everyday human experience.
So what does this all mean for us today, for the way innovation happens, say, in the 21st century?
Well, his R&D laboratory model, the one he pioneered at Menlo Park and later expanded at that sprawling West Orange facility, it fundamentally changed how innovation processes are organized, financed, and executed globally.
How so?
He brought together engineering expertise, scientific inquiry, and the business world in this unprecedented way. He demonstrated that systematic, collaborative research could be a hugely profitable venture.
So it wasn't just science, it was good business.
Absolutely. You might not realize it, but technology centers all over the world today, from fast-paced startups in Silicon Valley to the massive R&D departments of huge multinational corporations like Google or Apple.
Yeah.
They draw direct inspiration from Edison's Menlo Park laboratory. It's really not an exaggeration to say it's the conceptual precursor to virtually every corporate R&D department we see today.
Wow, that's a huge legacy.
It's a truly enduring blueprint for organized industrial innovation.
Yeah, it's a profound testament to his foresight, isn't it?
Yeah.
That this model, focusing on collaborative, systematic research with a clear path to commercialization, became the enduring standard.
It really is. Before Edison, breakthroughs often came from, like we said, individual brilliant minds or isolated academic labs, maybe small informal groups. He institutionalized it.
Right.
He understood that invention wasn't just about individual genius, though he certainly possessed plenty of that. It was about a well-organized, adequately financed, and expertly managed process, a pipeline from idea to market.
And that shift fundamentally altered the career paths for engineers and scientists. Right?
Completely. It created new roles, new opportunities within industry, and it really set the stage for the rapid technological advancement that defines our modern era.
Okay, but no innovator's journey, especially one as ambitious and, frankly, as dominant as Edison's. It's never without its challenges, is it? Its shadows, its criticisms.
No, that's very true. History is rarely that clean-cut.
Despite his immense achievements, his undeniable contributions, Edison's career was certainly no exception. He engaged in some significant disagreements, rivalries, that sparked major technological and, at times, some fiercely debated ethical questions.
The controversies are part of the story.
Most notably, his intense clashes with Nikola Tesla and George Westinghouse. They became legendary, almost mythological in how they're recounted sometimes.
They really did. And what's truly fascinating, and maybe often glossed over in the more heroic narrative, is how that war of the currents actually played out. As we discuss, while Tesla's alternative current system, developed with Westinghouse, was demonstrably proving more efficient for power transmission over long distances, which was crucial for a nationwide grid.
Right.
Edison steadfastly defended his direct current, his DC system. He had invested so heavily, both financially and intellectually, in DC infrastructure. He was fiercely protective of his pioneering work and the commercial empire he'd built upon it.
Understandable, maybe from his perspective.
Perhaps. But his efforts to protect his patents and his DC system were incredibly aggressive. Historical sources detail a campaign that went way beyond just scientific debate. It involved public demonstrations, a relentless negative media offensive aimed at discrediting AC, trying to paint it as dangerous.
Yeah, I've heard stories about that, the elephants.
Unfortunately, yes. Edison's strategy included supporting the development of the electric chair for capital punishment, arguing that AC was so dangerous it was suitable for execution. And he even publicly electrocuted animals, dogs, horses, famously an elephant named Topsy, though that was slightly later and maybe more complex with AC. To sensationalize its perceived dangers, he often used the term Westinghousing an animal as a synonym for electrocution.
Wow, that's dark.
It was controversial even back then. This period wasn't just a battle of technologies. It was this fierce public competition of personalities, business strategies, and at times really questionable ethics. And the stakes were incredibly high. Whoever controlled the standard for electricity would effectively control the future of industrial development, urban life, everything.
And beyond those technical and commercial battles, Edison sometimes faced criticism for how he presented the inventions coming out of his labs, didn't he?
Yes, that's another layer.
While he clearly was the visionary, the organizer, some sources, even former collaborators, noted that he often presented inventions as solely his own personal success.
Taking the spotlight.
Even when they were clearly the product of vast team efforts, the collaborative genius of dozens of engineers, scientists, skilled machinists working under him.
It does raise important questions about scientific ethics, doesn't it? About the attribution of credit in large-scale innovation. Those blurred lines between individual genius and collective effort within a corporate research environment.
Yeah, it's easy to credit the singular figurehead, the famous name.
But the reality, especially in his labs, is that much of this innovation happened collectively. He directed it, but many hands were involved.
So if we connect this to the bigger picture, while these criticisms about his business tactics, about attribution, they're certainly valid, they're important to acknowledge for a complete, nuanced understanding of the man and his methods.
Right. You can't ignore them.
But it's crucial to balance them with his undeniable contributions, right?
Oh, absolutely. Edison's overall impact, his relentless creativity, his unparalleled leadership in organizing the invention process, his incredible ability to implement ideas on a grand industrial scale. That solidifies his place as one of history's most influential inventors. He was, without doubt, a complex figure, reflecting the ambitious, fiercely competitive, and often, cutthroat times he lived in. A period where the rules of industrial innovation were still being written, often by him.
He didn't just follow the rules, he made them.
In many ways, yes. His vision extended far beyond a single invention. He envisioned and built entire industries, laying fundamental groundwork for our modern technological society.
So let's talk about that broader societal impact.
Yeah.
Edison's inventions, they weren't just technological marvels confined to his labs or factories.
No, they spilled out everywhere.
They profoundly impacted the very fabric of society,
Sure.
transforming daily life for millions. I mean, think about it.
Yeah.
How did they change your great-grandparents' daily routines, their social interactions, their leisure time?
It's hard to even imagine life before them now.
That's right. The shift from flickering gaslight to abundant, stable electric light, the introduction of recorded music into homes, the magic of those first moving pictures. These weren't just new products, they radically reshaped human experience itself.
And this raises a truly important question. How did these innovations fundamentally alter social structures and daily routines on a grand scale?
Okay, how?
Well, take electric lighting, for instance. It dramatically shifted working and living hours. Suddenly, productivity wasn't bound strictly by daylight. Factories could operate around the clock, boosting industrial output massively.
The 24-hour society begins.
In a sense, yes, and even more profoundly, social life could extend well into the evening. Streets became safer, or at least felt safer. Theaters could hold late-night shows. Department stores could stay open longer. Homes could be illuminated without the constant dangers and hassle of gas or oil lamps.
It changed everything.
It transformed everything from urban planning and public safety to leisure activities. And simultaneously, you have sound and imaging technologies in the entertainment sector, ushering in entirely new cultural forms. Recorded music created the concept of a popular song that could be heard anywhere, anytime. It broke geographical barriers, allowed for mass consumption of music.
The birth of pop music, really.
Essentially. And the immersive experience of cinema, it provided this new communal activity, bringing people together in dark rooms to share stories and spectacles. It became this powerful medium for art, news, entertainment that has only grown in influence.
So these weren't just conveniences.
No, they were catalysts. Catalysts for profound, irreversible cultural shifts that really laid the groundwork for our 2047 media-rich society today.
And it wasn't just about the physical inventions themselves or their direct impact on daily life. His systematic business models integrating research, patenting, commercialization. They weren't just about making money, were they? Though they certainly did
Though
that.
they did indeed. But no, there was more to it.
They actively encouraged an entrepreneurial spirit on a national and eventually global scale.
How so?
By demonstrating this successful, repeatable model for systematic invention, patenting, commercialization, he essentially showed countless others how to build industries from scratch.
He provided the playbook.
Exactly. He didn't just build products, he built an economy and an ethos around them, inspiring generations of entrepreneurs and innovators in the process.
And what's fascinating here is that Edison's approach, marrying that rigorous scientific and engineering pursuit with shrewd business acumen, it provided a tangible, successful template. It inspired countless others to pursue innovation and commercialize their ideas.
That ripple effect.
Exactly. This ripple effect on entrepreneurship and industrial development, it continues to shape economies today. He created this kind of virtuous cycle where technological breakthroughs could lead to massive commercial success, which in turn funded more research and development, spurring further innovation.
Fueling the fire.
Precisely. This reinforced the idea that ingenuity, when systematically applied and made commercially viable, could drive immense societal change and economic growth. It fundamentally altered the landscape of industry and inspired a new generation of inventors and business leaders to follow in his footsteps.
So when Thomas Edison passed away in 1931, the world mourned a figure who had really become a living legend by then.
A household name globally.
Absolutely. He left behind not just those countless patents and tangible products that reshape daily life, but, maybe more enduringly, a complete, groundbreaking model for how modern technological innovation should be done, or at least how it could be done successfully.
The system endured.
His death marked the end of an extraordinary era of personal invention, perhaps. But his broader legacy, the institutionalization of innovation that was just beginning to be fully appreciated.
Yeah, its true impact unfolded over decades.
It's a legacy that truly lives on, evident in countless, often unseen aspects of our daily lives. A real testament to his foresight and that relentless drive.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture one last time, it becomes abundantly clear. The fundamental principles of today's electricity generation and distribution, the very essence of sound recording and playback, the foundational elements of imaging technologies, they still bear the indelible imprint of his work.
Even with all the advancements since.
Oh, absolutely. While technologies have advanced far beyond his wildest dreams, the core concepts, the systematic approach to their development, and the very structure of the industries they created, they owe a tremendous, undeniable debt to Edison. His name continues to be remembered, not just in the dusty annals of science and technology, but in the collective consciousness, as a timeless symbol of creativity, unwavering perseverance, and the transformative power of organized, relentless innovation.
So as you, listening right now, maybe flick on a light switch later, or scroll through your music streaming service, or settle in for a movie tonight, take just a moment to truly consider how many of the everyday conveniences you take completely for granted today. How many can genuinely be traced back to the curious mind, the tireless hands, and the systematic industrial-scale approach of Thomas Edison?
It's a fascinating thought exercise.
It really is. And what does that tell you about the profound, lasting power of sustained curiosity and relentless experimentation in shaping the entire world around us? It's definitely a thought worth holding on to.